In 2005, the film Kingdom of Heaven was released. It was a sweeping historical epic, set during one of the most significant conflicts between the Christian and Islamic worlds, what we now call the Crusades. Starting in 1096, Catholic Europeans launched campaigns to reclaim the Holy Land and spread Christianity across the globe. And you might expect a film on this subject to give a fair, balanced look at both sides, to explore the complexity of such a massive historical struggle. But that's not what we got. Instead, Kingdom of Heaven depicts Christian crusaders as brutal, ignorant savages, while their Muslim opponents are shown as wise, noble, and peace-loving. It's worth noting that Ridley Scott, the film's director, is an atheist, so it's not hard to see why he may have chosen to present things this way. But regardless of his personal beliefs, the film reflects a broader narrative that's been dominant in the West for decades. Take, for example, the History Channel's Mankind, The Story of Us. In it, the Crusades are singled out as a uniquely shameful, almost unthinkable chapter of religious violence. Of all the wars fought in the name of religion, we're told, the Crusades were somehow in a category of their own, a stain on humanity. The message is always the same, that Christians, one day, decided to launch unprovoked attacks against a peaceful Islamic world. And it's often used as proof that church and state must remain separate, and that Catholicism should never again wield political power. The fear is clear. If Christians ever gain influence, they'll drag us into more pointless wars, just like the Crusades. But here's the problem. Almost everything we've been told about the Crusades is completely wrong. And that's why I made this video. Because the common understanding of the Crusades is not just off, it's the opposite of what actually happened. Today we're going to explore why the Crusades weren't just morally justified, but in many ways were one of the great accomplishments of Christian history. Let's go back in time to the year 600 AD. That's about 5 centuries before the First Crusade. Here's what the Christian world looked like at that point. The regions highlighted on the map, those were Christian majority lands, yes, including the Middle East and North Africa. Hard to imagine today, but these areas were once overwhelmingly Christian. After Christianity was legalized by Emperor Constantine under the Edict of Milan, it spread rapidly through both halves of the Roman Empire, east and west. Even when the Western Roman Empire fell, Christianity endured, and even the so-called barbarian tribes that invaded eventually converted. So what happened to Christianity in the East? How did it vanish from its birthplace? In the mid-600s, a new force exploded out of the Arabian Peninsula. Warlords swept through the region, conquering land after land, and they brought with them a new religion, Islam. Unlike the barbarian tribes of Europe, these conquerors didn't convert to Christianity. Instead, they overran it. At that time, the two great powers of the region were the Christian Byzantine Empire and the Zoroastrian Sassanid Empire. But both were exhausted after fighting each other in a brutal 25-year war. And when the Islamic armies arrived, neither could hold them back. The Byzantines lost North Africa and the Levant. The Sassanids were destroyed entirely, and most tragically for Christians, the Holy Land was lost. By the year 900, Islam had conquered territory as far west as France and southern Italy. Now, I'm not here to moralize. Empires rise and fall. Wars of conquest are as old as history itself. But Islam introduced a new concept into these wars: jihad, holy war. Muhammad wasn't just a preacher, he was a warrior and a conqueror. And Islamic empires have followed that example ever since. That's also why slavery was and still is so prevalent in many parts of the Islamic world. But regardless of your view on these conquests, one fact is clear. Islam invaded Christian lands. It turned Christians into second-class citizens, and often into slaves. They imposed a heavy jizya tax on non-Muslims, and many churches were closed or destroyed. Over centuries, Christianity faded from being the majority faith in these regions to just a tiny remnant. And things only got worse. Christendom's hand is forced. For centuries, the Mediterranean was the Roman Empire's economic engine, safe, stable, and bustling with trade. Rome had crushed piracy, securing trade routes for centuries. But once Islamic powers took over the southern coastlines, piracy returned with a vengeance. From North Africa and the Middle East, Muslim raiders devastated commerce and turned the Mediterranean into a dangerous, lawless sea. Europe's economy suffered. For nearly 400 years, Christian Europe was isolated, impoverished, and under siege. This is the real reason why the years between 600 and 1000 AD are often called Europe's Dark Age. By the mid-800s, Christendom had had enough. In 846, Muslim forces sailed up the Tiber River and looted the Vatican itself. St. Peter's Basilica was sacked. Christian leaders began to call for resistance. Pope Leo IV even promised spiritual rewards for those who died fighting back. In the West, Muslim rulers in Iberia launched brutal expansion campaigns, burning cities, enslaving people, and moving north. This finally triggered the Christian Reconquista, a centuries-long fight to reclaim Spain and Portugal. In the east, the Seljuk Turks began overrunning Byzantine territory. They destroyed Armenia in 1064. Its capital Ani was so devastated. It still lies in ruins today. The Armenian homeland was lost. Entire communities were forced to flee and resettle in new lands. Then, the Turks pushed deeper into Anatolia, what is today Turkey, changing the region's culture and religion forever. As historian John J. O'Neill explains, within just 35 years, Muslims had taken more Christian land than all of France. The Byzantines couldn't stop the tide. So Emperor Alexius I made a desperate plea to the West. He reached out to the Pope. This was huge. Catholic and Orthodox Christians had been in a major split for nearly 50 years, and now they were putting their differences aside. Adding to the urgency was Muslim persecution of Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land. Men like Peter the Hermit saw this firsthand. This was the world that gave rise to the Crusades. And once you understand it, the First Crusade doesn't seem so crazy anymore. This was the Islamic world that Catholics saw in 1095, a world that had invaded Christian nations, enslaved civilians, and expanded by the sword. The Crusades begin. In 1095, the moment finally came. Pope Urban II issued a call for what would become the First Crusade, a mission to reclaim the Holy Land and push back the tide of Islamic expansion. In his famous speech, Pope Urban declared, "Your brothers in the East are in desperate need of your help. You must hurry to give them the aid you've promised. The heathens have slain many, destroyed churches, and ravaged the Greek Empire. If they are left unchecked, they will strike down even more of the faithful." He continued, "On this account the Lord himself, urge you as messengers of Christ to proclaim this call far and wide. Persuade all people, regardless of rank or status, to give aid quickly to their fellow Christians. Let hatred among you be laid to rest. Let your quarrels cease. Let wars between Christians end, so you may turn your swords toward those who truly threaten you." It's worth noting that Urban didn't just want to protect Christians. He also hoped to unify them. He wanted an end to the endless fighting between Christian kingdoms. The goal wasn't just defense, but a higher purpose: unity through shared faith and sacrifice. And the call worked. The message spread through Europe like wildfire. Tens of thousands of faithful Catholics, peasants, nobles, knights, even kings, answered the call. Men from France, England, Flanders, Germany, people from all walks of life, from every corner of the Christian world, set out for the Holy Land. What's often overlooked is just how remarkable this was. It was something unprecedented in human history. The Catholic Church had done what no other institution could. It united a continent of rival cultures and tribes into a single faith-driven campaign for a common cause. A shared religion, a shared enemy, a shared mission. Never before and never again has Europe seen such a unified effort, from so many different nations, in the name of a single faith. And maybe that's why modern secular society is so eager to condemn the Crusades. because they reveal a time when Christian unity wasn't just a dream, it was a reality. Looking back on the Crusades. Now, did every crusade go according to plan? Of course not. Others were catastrophic blunders, like the Fourth Crusade. But even the failures make sense when you understand the context. These weren't easy wars. Christian armies were traveling thousands of miles into foreign lands against enemies who knew the terrain. The logistics alone were staggering. And yet, despite the odds, they often succeeded. Take the First Crusade, for example. It was an overwhelming success. The Crusaders defeated nearly every Muslim force they encountered and captured Jerusalem for the first time in centuries. The Holy Land was once again under Christian control. They even established Crusade estates in the region, kingdoms that would endure for over 100 years. And then there's one of the lesser-known episodes I find especially fascinating, the Sixth Crusade. By then, Jerusalem had fallen back into Muslim hands. But the Muslims were now fighting among themselves in a civil war. Emperor Frederick II of the Holy Roman Empire used diplomacy, not violence, to negotiate its return. Jerusalem came back under Christian control without a single battle being fought. Not one drop of blood was shed. It was a stunning diplomatic victory. Even if it didn't last, the truth is, in that era, no one could hold Jerusalem for long. It changed hands repeatedly, a reflection of how volatile the region was at the time. But the Crusades did more than just win battles or retake cities. They secured Christendom's Western Front and gave its eastern territories several more centuries of survival. Islamic power wouldn't seriously threaten Europe again until the rise of the Ottoman Empire in the 1300s. And even then, Europe still answered the call. The Crusade of Nicopolis, the Crusade of Varna, both efforts to stop the advancing Ottomans. And while they didn't succeed in halting the empire entirely, they showed that Christian Europe could still unite against a common threat in the name of God. Eventually, in the 1600s, Ottoman power was finally broken, ironically, by what was essentially another crusade. The Holy League, a coalition of Austria, Poland, Venice, and Russia, rose up, pushed the Ottomans back, and preserved Europe once again. Conclusion. Some still claim the Crusades were a failure. But ask yourself, were they? When the Crusades began, Europe was Christian. And 1,000 years later, despite modern secularization, it still is. Ironically, Christianity only started to lose its grip on Europe after the Pope lost his power to call crusades. So when we look back, we shouldn't see the Crusades as a dark stain on Catholic history. We should recognize them for what they were: a defense, a response, a civilizational effort to push back against centuries of invasion and oppression. And yes, an incredible achievement.